So, I know I've been talking about hell a lot. This is going to be but I'm not quite finished with it. I want to deal with one more question before I move to some other topic next week. I don't know when it'll be, what it'll be. Is because we talked about why do Christians believe in hell? Why it's such kind of a pivotal, kind of central doctrine for Christians, and really most kind of fundamental, what do you want to say, monotheistic as well as kind of monolithic faiths. Now I want to the question that atheists like to kind of bring up it's a baiting question really, of who is in heaven and who is in hell, because they'll bring out somebody, a Mother Teresa, for instance, Roman Catholic, heavily ecumenical, helped a lot of people in India, or a Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Neil deGrasse Tyson, just whoever it is, Bill Nye. They'll bring up somebody like that, but they're just specifically, they're not a Christian. Or alternatively, they'll bring up somebody who claims to be a Christian, but they are a different kind of Christian than you are, for instance, or they have a different belief on, let's say, evolution or the rapture or Pentecostalism or continuationism versus cessationism. They'll bring up some doctrinal disagreement or philosophical disagreement that you have or may have with someone else, and be like, well, is that person going to heaven? Is that person going to hell? Bill Gates, being with his millions that he's donated, is he going to hell still because he doesn't believe in God? And short answer, probably. I mean, I don't know what Bill Gates' actual heart is. I don't know. But simple fact is, this is the dividing line. Do you want to spend eternity with Jesus Christ? If the answer is yes, then you'll go to heaven. If the answer is no, then you will not go to heaven. As I talked about this in the previous video, that heaven is not just where you get to work on your golfing handicap for the rest of eternity. It's not where you just you have whatever your hobby is, you get to spend time doing that for the rest of all of eternity. It's not that you're going to be baby with wings strumming on a harp. It's not that you're none of those things are legitimate pictures of heaven. When it is described in Isaiah or in Revelation, when the final image of what heaven will be like for all of eternity, the New Jerusalem, the central figure throughout the whole thing is not the city, it's not the people living there, it's just God, Jesus Christ. It's there's a throne, and then there's a person sitting on the throne, and then there's a circle around that throne of other littler thrones, and the people that are on those smaller thrones, what they do is they get off their thrones and they bow to the one that's in the middle throne. And literally, he's only shown one time in all of Scripture where he's near the throne and not sitting on it, and that's at the death of Stephen. Literally, it's all pointed that the New Jerusalem, it won't need a light source, a sun or a moon to dictate time, which you have the sun, which is the light source. It's kind of it's been symbolic of that. It's the life-giving essence of the earth for light. That won't need that because he is alone going to be its light source, and we won't need a moon, which in ancient cultures, the moon was more important as kind of a timekeeper. Most calendars before we moved over to the Gregorian system were lunar because the the moon has phases that you can see with the naked eye. You don't need special equipment in order to discern, well, this is a full, it's a waxing, it's a waning, like all this. So there's not going to be time because it's eternity, and there's not going to be a sun because God himself is the light source, the sustaining essence of its existence. So do you want to be with Jesus or not? And if you don't want to be with him now, why would you want to be with him then? Like, this is only a little bit of time, and you don't want to be with him now, then why would you, for all of the extending eternity, why would you want to be with him then? So, like, that's the cutting floor right there. Because simply, like, C.S. Lewis is quoted, and I'm gonna paraphrase it a little bit, but a lot of it, that at the end of time, the judgment will simply be Jesus saying to you, have your own way, or us saying to him, have your own way. Because 1 Peter tells us that Jesus does desire for everyone to be saved. He even made a way for you to be saved. However, you can choose to reject it. You can. And if you reject it now, what makes you think that if 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, what makes you think that you would change your mind? Simply that there's this almost The Simpsons-esque where, like, Mr. Burns hits the button and the trapdoor falls underneath. We're going to have that image of what the final judgment's going to be like. It's not going to be that way. It's going to be that the books will be opened, and what you have and have not done throughout your life, what you should and shouldn't, the choices you've made will be exposed. But at the end of it, those of you who are not Christians, that don't want forgiveness or don't feel like you don't need forgiveness, it's not that you're going to then start appealing and apologizing in that moment once everything's been read of all the things that you've done, all the laws you've broken of his. You're not going to start appealing to his better nature or whatever to try and get him to be more lenient in that moment. It's that you're going to start defending yourself. Really, what it's going to be is that he's going to open the door, basically, for you towards hell, and it's going to the opportunity that you are going to walk into it freely. That rather than be with God, you will run into hell to get away from him, because you don't want to be with him. That's what it's going to be like. And before anyone goes into the direction of, like, well, it's going to be rock concerts every night because Slayer and Pantera and everything's going to be down there. It's a place of torment. That part of that torment will be separation. God himself says, Jesus said that he is the light. That's one of his I am statements in the book of John. And he also tells his people that you are the light of the world. That's from the Sermon on the Mount. You're the light of the world. That since both he himself and his people will be contained within heaven for all of eternity, the place of hell is referred to as outer darkness, because where there is no light, there is darkness. It's binary in that way. That if there's no light, there's darkness. And use the images of flames and destruction and various other things. There's a lot to unpack there. I don't have time for that right now. But it's simply that you're going to go to the furthest depth to get away from God. You're doing the same now, you will be doing it then. It's that. So you're going to lose out on all of the benefits, I guess, the pleasurous, the leisurous aspects of heaven because of that. But there's a consequence to your behavior. There's consequences to your actions, whether you like it or not. So, if that clears anything up, great. If it doesn't, feel free to ask questions. I'm tired. I only got 3 hours, 2.5 hours of sleep. So, oh well. Anyway, peace.